Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Air India has been privatized finally, thank God. It's been sold back to the Tatas, from whom it was not bought, but it was stolen or grabbed by a socialist government in 1953. Now, this is a wildly popular decision. And one way of looking at that popularity is see that 4-word tweet of Ratan Tata's, "Welcome home, Air India." See how many times it's been retweeted and liked. More than almost 1 lakh times it's been retweeted and liked much more. Now, I know that doesn't mean anything like a national poll, but it's an indication of how widely popular this is. Generally, also in the political economy, political system, it's been welcomed or accepted. There are the usual comments from many in the opposition, particularly from the left. But that is on one side. That is politics of the day. Now, this is now a wildly popular decision. Even Air India's employees, unions, a lot of the employees have been looking forward to it because they're good people. They are good people, very good employees, very good professionals. All they've lacked so far for decades is a professional environment. It became like a department of the government, although it was a corporation. Now it will go back. It will become a private company run by an entrepreneurial group with a great reputation, and also by entrepreneurs who have skin in the game. That means they are putting their own money in the game, not taxpayers' money in the game. So while I go with it, I will also mention to you, just by way of disclosure, that Ratan Tata happens to be among our stellar group of investors. In fact, he is among the first. Now, Air India, you know a lot about the history of what happened, how it happened. It is not even the biggest public sector company to be privatized. It was by far not the biggest public sector company. There are dozens of public sector companies which are bigger than Air India. In fact, even much bigger than the combined entity of Air India and Indian Airlines. But it was the most visible. It was also for so many decades the most visible brand from India. Was the brand in good shape? So when people identified Air India as the only Indian brand they knew, did it bring India any pride or benefit? That's a question which you can answer quite easily. I don't have to idiot-proof it. Now, we know that 1932, the Tatas started the first airline in India with one flight. It was called Tata Airlines. They flew a de Havilland Pussmoth from Karachi to Ahmedabad to Mumbai. You had to make a stopover those days. Planes were small. They had limited capacity, and J.R.D. Tata himself was flying it because he was a flying buff as much as Ratan Tata is a flying buff as well. That was 15th of October 1932, which means just a day from now will be the anniversary of the first flight of an Indian commercial aircraft. Now, in 1946, Tata Airlines got incorporated. In 1948, it became Air India. 47, India became independent. So 48 became Air India. That is the point when Government of India got a foot in the door by taking 49% of the equity in the company. So government was already there. And we know since then that Government of India is the kiss of death for a commercial enterprise. So government got him with 49%, and sure enough, government figured that this was a very juicy thing to do, to run an airline. By 1953, they passed a law whereby they nationalized all 9 commercial airlines in India at that point of time. And they also separated 2 airlines. Air India was given all the international flying. Indian Airlines was given all the domestic flying, and government became the owner of both. And since then, this started going downhill. Now, for a long time, government still allowed J.R.D. Tata to continue as the chairman of Air India. And in his capacity as chairman, and also given his stature, the respect in which people held him, both in the government and in the airline, he leveraged his stature to make sure that Air India was not molested too much by state control. But then, you know, bad ideas travel, and bad ideas travel from one side of the political fence to the other. Jawaharlal Nehru may have been the one to nationalize the airline business as he started his socialist phase in 1953. In fact, after that, in 1956, he nationalized all life insurance business in India. A large number of companies were all all nationalized, that is 154 Indian insurers, 16 non-Indian insurers, 75 provident fund societies. They were all put together and made Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC of India. To get more data and more detail on this, read an article by Gautam Chikarmane, my former colleague from Indian Express, who's now a scholar at Observer Research Foundation. I will share a link with you. So read the details there. So 56, and Nehru then said, the nationalization of LIC is one of the most important steps towards our march to a socialist democracy. So the socialist toxification of Indian economy or Indian entrepreneurship was well and truly on its way. It was also the year 1956 when the Congress party passed the industrial policy resolution. Parliament adopted it. So India chose a purely, we talked of a mixed economy, but this was such a strong license quota Raj that what the private sector was left to do was subject to so many conditions, limited to so many sectors, and subject to so many clearances that the process of throttling India's private sector, the process of killing India's entrepreneurship was well and truly underway in the 50s. Now, you would have thought that in 1977, when his daughter Indira Gandhi lost power after the emergency, Janata Party came in, which included elements of the Jan Sangh, then, which is now BJP, Jan Sangh, which was the other side of Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, ideologically, even on the economy, even some from the old Swatantra Party. You would have thought that they will repair some of the damage done by these fake socialists earlier, that is Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, but they didn't do it. What did they do? They did the opposite. We know that George Fernandes threw out IBM and Coca-Cola and Pepsi as industry minister, but not just that. They actually fired J.R.D. Tata as the chairman of Air India, and they replaced him with one of their own. That is when the decline of Air India, qualitative decline, well and truly started. And that's when global carriers began to pick up traffic from India, vacuum clean the traffic from India. Pan Am, British, German carriers and others, Singapore, they started picking up international traffic from India because Air India increasingly became uncompetitive. Now this carried on for some time. Mrs. Gandhi came back to power and Indira Gandhi came back to power. And in fact, when the Morarji government removed J.R.D. Tata, Indira Gandhi wrote to him saying, expressing her regrets that this government had done it. Right? And J.R.D. Tata also responded to her. These are very nice letters. And we have these letters courtesy of Jairam Ramesh, the Congress MP, who shared these on his Twitter page. Please see these letters. They are very nicely written letters. When Indira Gandhi came back, however, I told you, bad ideas travel. And each successive government actually makes them worse. Right? It doesn't improve them, it makes them worse. So Indira Gandhi came back. She again invited J.R.D. Tata back to the board of Air India, but did not offer him chairmanship. It is much later, in 1986, that Rajiv Gandhi invited Ratan Tata to be chairman of Air India. Ratan Tata left in 3 years. By 1986, Rajiv Gandhi had already begun to lose a lot of his own political equity. So he was becoming weaker and weaker by the day. By 1989, Ratan Tata had gone. And since then, Air India has completely, if I may use that mixed metaphor, completely missed the bus. Because 1991, the reform happened under Manmohan Singh. In fact, as I am recording this, I see on my TV screens that he's been rushed to AIIMS. We pray for his good health. We hope he recovers and comes back. He's one of the wisest people that we've seen in our public life, whatever be my arguments with him, particularly under UPA 2. The fact is that when he reformed the economy and we saw this surge of private civil aviation, Air India or Indian Airlines were in no position to compete there. And that's when the decline became even steeper because people now had a choice and people could make a comparison for all kinds of things. Now, how did Air India continue on this long defying privatization? Because you might say that, oh, so many airlines shut down. Sahara shut down, Jet shut down, Kingfisher shut down. Air India has at least kept on going. The fact is that Air India would have been shut down a long time back if it had an owner or a business person who had skin in the game. It did not have an entrepreneur who had stakes in it. It had Bharat Sarkar, It has the almighty Sarkar-e-Hind with the power to tax its poor citizens. So they could tax and continue pouring this money into this hole where it was disappearing, just as they did with the nationalized banks. Mrs. Gandhi, in fact, 1969 nationalized 14 banks. 1980, she made it worse by nationalizing 6 more. 1972, she nationalized general insurance. Some of later post-reform private insurance companies came in, and general insurance companies are feeling the heat. And now there is talk, there is a decision to, in fact, privatize one of them. So all the sins committing in the past, some of those are now being reversed. So some atonement, some prayashit is being done by the Indian state. Air India is the most symbolic of that. Now, how symbolic is Air India and how important is Air India? So I can do no better than go back to a report that our holy, venerable, His Holiness, National Comptroller and Auditor General, CAG, Vinod Rai wrote in that period in 2010, 11, 12, when he was producing those flurry of CAG reports, which some of his officers would then display at press conferences like Djokovic or Steffi Graf or somebody displaying their Wimbledon trophies like that. This is this report. And every TV channel will rush saying, one more scam is out, 2G scam is out, coal scam is out, airport scam is out, Air India scam is out, CWG scam is out. Now, where those scams are, we know what those reports did to the telecom sector in India. Modi government has only now swallowed that bitter pill and carried out fairly enterprising and good reform on the telecom front. In fact, it's mostly a way of admitting that what had been done following that scam was a big blunder for India. It was making India's telecom sector rot all this while, and they've changed it. Similarly, coal. You've seen that article from Anil Swarup, former coal secretary, former HRD secretary in Government of India, very respected civil servant, who's explained while the roots of today's coal crisis, coal shortage, power shortage, lie in that scam mongering or scandal mongering that started with those CAG reports in the same period. In that same period, a CAG report, a 122-page CAG report was produced on Air India. And then I wrote an article, one of my national interest columns on it, and I will commit the crime of self-referencing a little bit and quoting from that article, but really I'm not self-referencing as much as I am referencing to the CAG report, because that article was mostly large chunks of the CAG report. I had plagiarized, quote unquote, the CAG report to show what exactly was wrong with Bharat Sarkar's Sarkar-e-Hind, because I think they are the Mughal period, Sarkar-e-Hind, right? I sometimes use this expression Sarkar-e-Hind because I find that our state's approach to being the state is a bit like harking back to the Mughal times. Jille-Ilahi, shadow of Lord Almighty himself, right? So they think they can do nothing wrong. And this report actually showed you exactly what was wrong with government thinking, what is wrong with a statist control of any country's economy, and what are the results from it. So this report, in fact, this report said, I'm quoting from the report now, not from my article. So, okay. So plagiarism again, but apologies CAG, and also thank you CAG for writing such a wonderful document on exactly what's wrong with government running a business. Because government business then has to be audited by people like the CAG. Now this report said, Ministry of Civil Aviation and Government must recognize that Air India is the national carrier. And N and C in national carrier were in capital letters. His lines, not mine, and he capitalized them, not I. Ministry of Civil Aviation and Government must recognize that Air India is the national carrier. In very many ways, it is the symbol of the state. How can a commercial company be symbol of the state? So I had then asked a question, is it Air India or is it the Indian Air Force? Or just declare it the national carrier of Government of India. So it may be the flag carrier of Government of India, but a commercial airline can't be the flag carrier of India or can't represent the state of India. It is not the Indian Air Force. It's Air India which is competing with Lufthansa, British Airways, Singapore Airlines, Emirates, Gulf Airways, then now Etihad, etc., etc. Then he goes on to say, and very interesting, the words, even if ministers and officials of the Ministry of Civil Aviation prefer not to be ministers of Air India alone. That's because some minister had said at that point, look, why do you ask me questions only about Air India? I'm Minister of Civil Aviation. There are many airlines in India. I'm the minister for all of them, right? I'm the Minister of Civil Aviation in India, not of a company in India. So the CAG says, even if minister and officials of Ministry of Civil Aviation prefer not to be ministers of Air India alone, the fact is, exactly CAG's lines, the fact is that Air India has to be given more than a level playing field. So how does a government run a business? By distorting the market, by putting itself ahead in the race already. By being given, they are not asking for a level playing field. He's asking for more than a level playing field. All decisions to allot routes, timings, alter timings, right of first refusal on routes, etc. should be taken keeping the interests of Air India in mind. That means while you've opened up your economy, you allowed private airlines to come in, you must still run a government monopoly. जो थोड़ा बहुत बचा खुचा होगा, what is little left over, others can pick up the morsels on the side. Now, some of this had been changed, but some of the monopoly stuff was continuing. For example, the India-Riyadh flights, which are so lucrative because there's so much traffic with Saudi Arabia, Air India had the monopoly. The more flights it flew there, the more money it lost. The India-US non-stop flights, Air India had the monopoly. Although India and America have even then had an open skies policy, India could have allowed any airline to do that route, but it was kept for Air India. For every flight that Air India took non-stop to America, it lost money. How did we know it? Because the same CAG report told us this. The same CAG report told us that on the Riyadh route, its punctuality was almost 63% negative. It was delayed almost 63% of the time. Then you can't compete, and then you blame economic reform and private airlines. Then, after saying all this, after demanding more than a level playing field, and after saying that before any routes are given to anybody, any timings are given to anybody, first check with Air India, right? So giving Air India the right of first refusal over everybody. The same CAG report goes on to say, and please hold your breath because it is such a shock. It goes on to say, quote, further, a total hands-off approach to the management of the airline is required. If the government is running this as a department of the government, as a monopoly, giving it precedence over everybody else, how can he ask for a hands-off approach to the management of the airline? That is how a statist mindset thinks. So to me, this report was a classic example of the government mindset on running a business. So then the CAG report goes on to use a bunch of adjectives for Air India: slow, unpunctual, unwieldy, unreliable, rude, arrogant, due for a total overhaul and reinvention. That's why I said early on that Air India should not be a symbol of India, but Air India should be a symbol of the state of India. Because the state of India, the government of India, is one to which all these adjectives apply, and that is the one that deserves a total reinvention and total overhaul. So having said that, the report also said the more Air India flies, the more money it loses, particularly on routes over which it has monopoly. I quoted a couple of examples to you. It also mentioned one particular case where Air India actually had put itself ahead of everybody else in the freighter market because it had converted two old 737s which are fully depreciated. Those of you understand how balance sheets had made know what the value of a fully depreciated asset is. Those were converted into freighters at a cost of 168 crores. In a year, they had lost 270 crores. It needs special talent to achieve that. But that special talent is only found in the government, where there is access to the endless amounts of money coming from the taxpayer. Now this CAG report, once again, I am not quoting a passenger survey. The CAG report quotes a passenger survey, which says that passengers found the airline apathetic, grudging, dirty, unpleasant, unresponsive, whereas they found the private airlines, that is Jet, Kingfisher, Lufthansa, British Airways, Emirates, Singapore Airlines, etc. They found private airlines friendly, obliging, understanding, classy, polished, and hospitable. Now, who do they blame for it? Do they blame the minister for this? Do they blame the government for this? Do they blame God for this? Do they blame the passenger for it? Frankly, if you ask me, the answer to all this is you blame the government for it, because government should never have been running a business, least of all is service business. And as you go on and on reading that report, again, I'll share this article with you because all the quotes are there. It said, one thing it did not talk of was corruption. It said Air India bought the planes, but the process was too fast. It brought the planes within 4 months. Okay, you find it too fast. But in the same report you say, but Indian Airlines suffered because the process to buy planes for it was too long. And then you say that government took 117 days to give bank guarantees, sovereign guarantees to Indian Airlines to buy its aircraft, so it suffered. Now, can you imagine if government had cleared those sovereign guarantees in 17 days instead of 117 days, what would the CAG have said? They would have said, oh, this is too fast. So what is too fast? What is too slow? You will never see scandals like this when a private airline buys aircraft. Whenever you have the government in, you have controversies and you have scams. And scams do take place. Scams are a reality because people are dealing with someone else's money. People are not dealing with their own money. So in fact, then I had said that now that our CAG, who's held in such high respect, everything our CAG says and writes becomes gospel now. Burn up your frequent flyer miles on Emirates, Lufthansa, British Airways, Gulf Airways, Singapore Airlines, because you know what? The Stalinists are coming, because they will again restore the monopoly of Air India, drive everybody out from India, because this report even said that you should even reverse the landing rights given to foreign airlines. So I'm so glad these bad ideas, I told you, bad ideas travel across the political divide. They are usually made worse by the other side, as we see with this. What Nehru did, Morarji made worse. What Morarji did, Indira Gandhi pretended to repair but actually made even worse by asking G.R.D. Tata to come in just as a board member. What could he do just as a board member? Now we should be happy that this has been reversed, that this Indian state has said, look, we made a mistake. Okay, we took too long fixing it, almost 70 years, but we've done it. So once again, congratulations, Air India. Congratulations, Ratan Tata. And congratulations, the taxpayer of India. At least one little hole in your pocket has now been stitched back.